Early Church Fathers, October 27th, readings. Hermas, the shepherd of Hermas, Similitude 5, of true fasting and its reward, also of purity of body. The lesson on true fasting. While I was fasting and sitting upon a certain mountain, giving thanks to the Lord for all his dealings with me, I saw the shepherd seated beside me. He said, "Why have you come here so early in the morning?" I answered, "Because, sir, I have a station." "What is a station?" he asked. "I am fasting, sir," I replied. Then he said, "And what sort of fasting are you observing?" I answered, "As I have always done, sir, so I fast." "You do not know," he said, "how to fast to the Lord. This fasting of yours is useless, it brings no benefit." "Why, sir?" I asked. "Do you say this?" "Because," he continued, "the fasting that you think you observe is not a fasting at all. Let me teach you what kind of fasting is full and acceptable before God. Listen, God does not desire an empty fasting. If you fast in this way, you will gain nothing for a righteous life. But if you wish to offer to God a fasting that is pleasing to him, then do this. Do no evil in your life, but serve the Lord with a pure heart. Keep his commandments, walk in his precepts, and let no evil desire arise in your heart. Believe in God and fear him. Abstain from every evil thing, and you will live unto God. If you do these things, you will keep a great and acceptable fast before the Lord." Cf. Isaiah 58, 6-7. The vineyard and the faithful slave. "Hear the similitude," he said, "which I will tell you concerning true fasting. A certain man had a field and many slaves. He planted part of the field as a vineyard and chose one slave who was faithful, beloved, and of great value to him. He said to this slave, 'Take this vineyard which I have planted, stake it until I return, and do nothing else to it. If you keep this order, I will grant you your freedom.' The master then went into a far country. The slave obeyed, staking the vineyard. But when he had finished, he noticed that weeds had sprung up everywhere. He thought to himself, 'My master told me only to stake the vines, but if I leave the weeds, they will choke them. I will go beyond his command and dig up the rest, so that the vineyard will be more beautiful and fruitful.' He dug up the vineyard, rooted out all the weeds, and left the vines flourishing. After some time, the master returned. Seeing that the vines were well staked, the ground cleared, and the fruit abundant, he was greatly pleased. Calling his beloved son and his friends, the master told them, 'This slave has not only obeyed my command, but has done good beyond what I ordered. I promised him freedom if he obeyed, and he has done more than obey. He has beautified my vineyard. Therefore, I will make him co-heir with my son.' His son and friends rejoiced at this, agreeing that the slave was worthy to be co-heir. A few days later, the master made a feast and sent many dishes from his table to the slave. The slave took what was sufficient for himself and distributed the rest among his fellow servants. They rejoiced and prayed that he might find even greater favor with his master. The master heard all this and was pleased again. Calling his son and friends, he told them what the slave had done with the food. They all rejoiced still more that the slave should indeed become co-heir with his son." The meaning of the similitude. Then I said to him, "Sir, I do not understand these similitudes unless you explain them to me." He replied, "I will explain them all to you. Whatever I mention in our conversations I will make clear. Keep the commandments of the Lord, and you will be approved among those who obey him. If, in keeping God's commandments, you also perform good deeds beyond what is required, you will gain for yourself greater honor and glory. For those who go beyond mere obedience, the Lord will rejoice in them all the more. If you therefore keep the commandments and in addition show mercy and service, your joy will be full." I said, "Sir, whatever you command, I will observe, for I know that you are with me." He answered, "I will be with you, because you desire what is good, and I will be with all who desire what is good." "This fasting," he continued, "is very good, provided that the commandments of the Lord are kept. Therefore, when you fast, first guard yourself from every evil word and every wicked desire. Purify your heart from the vanities of this world. If you do this, your fasting will be perfect. And you shall do this also. On the day you fast, taste nothing but bread and water. Then calculate the cost of the meal you would have eaten that day, and give that amount to a widow, an orphan, or someone in need. In doing so, you will show humility, and the one who receives your gift will pray for you to the Lord. If you observe fasting as I have commanded you, your sacrifice will be acceptable to God. This fasting will be written down as righteous, for the service is noble, sacred, and pleasing to the Lord. Do these things with your children and your whole household, and you will be blessed. All who hear and keep these words shall be blessed, and whatever they ask of the Lord, they shall receive. Augustine of Hippo, The Confessions, Book 10, Chapter 26, Section 39. The fruit of a willing heart. Those who delight in good works are nourished by their fruits, not by what is received, but by the joy that springs from giving. They are not like those whose God is their belly, for such people seek only their own satisfaction. The true fruit does not lie in the gift itself, but in the spirit in which it is given. Thus, the one who serves God and not himself, I clearly understand why he rejoices, and I rejoice with him greatly. The apostle received from the Philippians the gifts they sent through Epaphroditus, yet his joy was not in the gifts themselves. I see, O Lord, why he rejoiced, for he fed not upon the provision, but upon the love that produced it. I rejoiced in the Lord greatly, he said, that now at last your care for me has revived again. Though you were indeed concerned for me, you lacked opportunity. Philippians 4:10. Rejoicing in the giver, not the gift. The Philippians, for a time, had grown weary and unfruitful in this good work, but now their care had blossomed again, and Paul rejoiced for their sake, not for his own. His joy was not that his needs were supplied, but that their hearts once again bore fruit. He adds, "Not that I speak in respect of want, for I have learned, in whatever state I am, to be content. I know both how to be abased and how to abound. Everywhere and in all things I am instructed, both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." Philippians 4:11-13. Therefore, it is not the material gift that is counted as the fruit, but the good and right will of the giver. For the heart that gives from love bears a harvest acceptable to God. Thomas Aquinas, Summa Theologica, Part 1-2, Question 33. The effects of pleasure. Question. What are the effects of pleasure in the soul and body, and how do they shape human action? Objection. It seems that pleasure produces no real effect upon the soul or body, since it is but a passing motion of delight. What is momentary cannot leave a lasting mark. Therefore, pleasure neither strengthens nor weakens our faculties, but merely accompanies the act, like a shadow following form. Further, pleasure is said to be good, since it completes the act. But good produces no harm. Yet we see that pleasure often hinders reason, darkens judgment, and weakens virtue. Therefore, it is not good but rather destructive of what is higher. Again, what comes from rest cannot be the cause of motion, but pleasure arises from rest, since it follows the attainment of what is desired. Therefore, pleasure cannot move the will or body to further action. Responsio, I answer that pleasure has a twofold effect, one upon the operation itself, and another upon the soul and body that experience it. First, upon the operation, pleasure perfects and strengthens the activity from which it arises. For just as weariness diminishes motion, so pleasure makes it flourish. When one takes delight in a thing, he performs it with greater ease and firmness. Hence, pleasure becomes a kind of confirmation of the act, like oil that makes the wheel turn more smoothly. Second, upon the soul and body, pleasure produces repose in the appetite and a gentle expansion in the bodily humors. Therefore, pleasure is refreshing and restorative, healing fatigue as rest restores a weary limb. Yet this same rest, when excessive, brings corruption, for if pleasure overflows its proper measure, the powers of the soul are weakened. Thus, the moderation of pleasure preserves health, but excess wastes the strength of both mind and body. Hence we must say, pleasure perfects action when rightly ordered, but perverts it when indulged without measure. For the good of the soul lies not in the delight itself, but in the right use of it, so that pleasure follows virtue as its companion, not its ruler. Quick Summa pleasure strengthens right action when moderate, but weakens soul and body when excessive. The candle and the runner. William sat reading by candlelight after a long day of work. He noticed that when the candle burned steadily, its flame brightened the words on the page and gave him peace. But when he trimmed it too low, or let it flare too high, The wax melted unevenly, and the flame sputtered or smoked. He thought of his own heart. When joy burned rightly, it gave light to his labor and warmth to his devotion. But when he sought pleasure for its own sake, the same flame that once helped him soon consumed his focus and dimmed his understanding. He prayed that his soul might learn to keep delight as a servant of truth, not a master of desire, so that pleasure might become the clear flame that illuminates, not the blaze that blinds.